Look at you get next. You get James. James was the brother of John. You know what James's nickname was? A son of thunder. You can find that, of course, in Mark chapter 3, verse 17. Why did he get that name? You go to some churches, they'll tell you that he got that name because he was a mighty preacher. You know what his first sermon was to Jesus? Rain down fire from heaven on the Samaritan village because they didn't believe in him. They called him and John the sons of thunder because they had anger management problems. I mean, they weren't just like these quaint little, it's like they were like, man, Jesus, man, they rejected you, man, let's just burn them. That's what he wanted Jesus to do. Not only that, both James and John, they get the great distinction, of course, of being self-seeking. Do you remember they went to Jesus and said, listen, can we sit at your right hand and your left hand? One of the other Gospels says that not only did they go, but they sent their mom to go. I mean, you know that's dirty when you send your mom to go do that stuff. It's like they want the places of prominence. And can you imagine being with the disciples as their mom goes to Jesus? Listen, can you let my son sit at your right hand and your left hand when you come in the kingdom? And you can imagine all the other disciples being like mad at him. Why didn't I think of that? You know what I mean? It's like these guys, they had anger management problems. They were self-serving. Again, they were fishermen as well. James was probably older than John because he's always listed first. But he always lived in the shadow of his brother. I mean, when was the last time you heard a sermon series on James, the son of Zebedee? Never, right? We hear tons of messages about John, the Apostle John, John at Patmos, the Apocalypse, all these things. But again, this is who Jesus chose. Chose a man with anger management problems, a man trying to climb the corporate apostolic ladder. Of course, then you get to John, James's brother. Again, also called a son of thunder. Well, know what's amazing about John? How does John discuss himself in his gospel? John was what? The apostle who Jesus loved. He was known, you read 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, the 3 letters, and they're all about what? Love. See, that's what the resurrected life of Jesus can do in a life. You go from the son of thunder to the apostle of love. Only Jesus can do that. Only Jesus can change your heart that profoundly. That profoundly. But when John showed up on the scene, he wasn't the apostle of love. He was the son of thunder. Now, the 4th apostle listed, of course, is Andrew. Andrew was Peter's brother, and obviously Andrew spent almost all of his time in the shadow of his brother Peter. You know what Andrew was known for, though, biblically? He was known for always bringing people to Jesus. Now how I know? He brought his brother Peter to Jesus in John chapter 1, verses 43 to 51. He was a follower, Andrew was a follower of John the Baptist, and when John testified about Jesus, Andrew began to follow Jesus, and he said, hey Peter, hey look, we found the Messiah, come on. Not only was Andrew known for bringing his brother Peter, but in John chapter 12, we find that Andrew brought the Greeks to see Jesus as well. And I don't know about you guys, but I kind of want the spirit of Andrew. I mean, what a great testimony to be known as somebody who was always introducing people to Jesus. I mean, isn't that what we talked about a few weeks ago? Making disciples is to introduce people to Jesus so they can be discipled like Jesus. Churches don't disciple people, Jesus disciples people. And Jesus uses churches to do it. Would to God that we would be people like Andrew who are introducing people to Jesus. From there, we go to the apostle named Philip. We know that Philip was from Bethsaida by the Sea of Galilee. You know how he's known in the Bible? He's known as the practical guy in the bunch. Do you remember when Jesus was about to feed the 5,000 people? Jesus asked Philip how many people could be fed. Philip didn't answer in faith, but he kind of whipped out his calculator and discussed the cost involved. He was a practical guy. And you know, the Church of Jesus Christ needs practical people. It's not a bad thing that he was practical. The problem was that even in our practicality, we still need to answer in faith. See, if you read books on business, which I love doing, there's a great book by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth. And it's about why small businesses fail. And I love reading it because it's so fascinating to understand why small businesses fail. And in this book, he talks about how that the entrepreneur of a company and the manager of a company don't like each other. Because the entrepreneur guy's the dreamer. He's always coming up with new ideas. And the manager doesn't like the entrepreneur because he's always coming up with new ideas, and the manager's trying to implement the last set of ideas that came in. And in a lot of ways, Philip has that managerial mindset. He's like, we got all these people. How are we going to feed them? What are we going to do? How are we going to feed these guys? He didn't realize that Jesus was going to take the loaves and the fishes and multiply them. But man, we need practicality in the body of Christ today. We need it. We need it. Notice who's that come back to Philip, of course? Thomas. When you think of the name Thomas, what's the adjective you think of? Doubting Thomas. You gotta love Thomas. He wasn't there when Jesus first appeared to the apostles. He said, listen, unless I see it, I won't believe it. He is your modern evidentiary skeptic.